Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Alistair McCaw, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach. And my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this.
It's beyond a joke. Wow, what an angle. There's a ticket to the party. That is phenomenal, dog. That's what that is. You can't teach shots like this. This is pure genius. That is eye candy of note. Super scintillating and sensational. He's got quite a large gluteus maximus. Well, he's sent the fans into a frenzy now. It's tennis near the gods. No mortal may approach. And don't try this at home.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Champion Minded podcast, or welcome back to it. I'm Alistair McCaw. I am super excited to launch this new series. It's about people who have a passion for what they do. And if there's someone that personifies that, it is this man, Rob Koenig. I was super excited to get him onto the podcast, to get into the mindset and career. And some of the questions I asked him was, what makes him so passionate about what he does? If others are struggling to find their passion out there, what are some of the best tips and advice he can give? What are the 3 traits and qualities to being successful in a career? What is the greatest lesson or failures he's learned? What's the best piece of advice he's received? What's the best tennis match he's commentated? Also, what Roger Federer said to him after the 2017 Australian Open final. I also asked him how he defines success, not just for his career, but in life. And of course, I had some fun quickfire questions at the end. So guys, I know you'll enjoy this one. It's our very first episode in our series, People with a Passion for What They Do. This is Rob Koenig. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready, bud. Ready to rock and roll. Hand me the rock. I'm ready to roll, baby.
Okay. Hey Robbie, you're one of the most successful sports commentators in the world, specifically on tennis. In fact, you have been called the GOAT of tennis commentary. And you're widely known for some of the absolute best and most unique one-liners. In fact, I played a few of those at the beginning of this episode. But I also know that you have incredible knowledge of all sports and, of course, 80s music, which I'm also a massive fan of as well. Robbie, it's an honor to have you on the podcast. And especially this series, People with a Passion for What They Do. You're our first guest, so welcome, Robbie.
Thanks, Ali. I'll tell you, with an intro like that, you've just become my agent, brother. So thank you very much. I really do enjoy what I do, and I feel very blessed to do it. So yeah, plenty to chat about, and I know we have a lot in common. So really looking forward to this chat, bud.
Absolutely. If I can just get back to that offer of being your agent, is that going to be in South African rands or in dollars?
Oh, no, we only work in real currency here, buddy. So USDs.
Cool stuff. So you're in London at the moment. Crazy weather there. Like apparently 2 days ago, the sun is shining, and then yesterday it was snowing, no?
Yeah, that's right. We had snow for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm here actually just a short walk from the All England Club. Most of the Americans know that as a Wimbledon. So, yeah, good vibe around the place here. There's a lot of work going on at Wimbledon at the moment with the structural changes, and fingers crossed that we'll be able to have the championships with bigger than 25% crowd. That's what it's looking like at the moment. The players are going to be in a bubble, but I'll keep you abreast of everything that's happening here at SW19.
As you always do, man. But we just heard this morning, obviously, that the French Open, Roland Garros, has been pushed back a week. So that's obviously going to cause a little bit of interesting scheduling, especially not just with the players, but the tournaments as well.
Yeah, and especially for those players who enjoy playing on the grass. If you do well at the French, You might, I guess thinking about it, if you do well at the French and make it into the second week, I suppose you'll be happy to miss a week of the grass. That'll probably be a nice payoff. But I think we've got to try and play the majors, come what may. And I'm sure there will be negotiations between those events that now do overlap with the French and see if there's some sort of compensation. But I think in these times we've got to be nimble, we've got to bop and weave, and I think all the tournaments and tournament directors as well, together with the majors, I think this is a time for unity and cooperation rather than hanging on to our own little piece of turf.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, obviously, Robbie, you were a professional player yourself, obviously better known for doubles as well. But, I was just checking out your profile this morning, and of course I've known you for many, many years, but I never knew you actually had some big wins, dude, over Tim Henman, amongst others.
Yeah, no, Ellie, I got those guys in the early days when they were still nippers in the smaller events. Guys like Tim and Patrick Rafter and Kafelnikov. So it sounds better than what it is. But, hey, a win's a win, right? And I always remind those guys that in my head-to-head against them, I'm in the positive. But some of those names that we just mentioned there, the fun part about those players was seeing them slightly earlier on in their careers and eventually to what they went on to become. And, especially with Kafelnikov and perhaps the most Pat Rafter. If you told me Rafter was going to go on to be, two-time US Open champion and twice a finalist at Wimbledon, I would have said you're off your rocker. He was so rubbish in his early years. Kafelnikov was a little bit better, but again, if you told me world number one and two majors, I would have said no way. And yet, the guy that I thought was the most talented, and Tim Henman, he had a great career, but no majors, and certainly wasn't world number one like the other two. So it's always taught me a very valuable lesson, Macca, that you just never know what is going to become of somebody. And I think I always choose my words very wisely when I'm speaking to younger kids who harbor ambitions of being a pro tennis player, because what you say could make a profound effect on them.
No, absolutely. That's good advice. Funny, I was having this conversation with somebody, was it yesterday or the day before? And it was on Simona Halep. And I remember seeing Halep when she was probably 17, 18. Of course, now she won French juniors, and not a lot of people know that. But same scenario as well. I watched one or two matches of her back then. It was actually in Belarus. I watched her at a challenger, and there was no chance. I thought this girl would make top 50. And there she is. She's gone to number one, won 2 slams, I think it is. But like you just said there now, you never know, huh?
Yeah. And also the mindset of a player. I think of some of the players that I thought was a dead cert for a major or two. The likes of a Gael Monfils, who had such an outstanding junior career. I think everybody had penciled Grigor Dimitrov in for a major or two. But, what's upstairs and between the ears, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't gel that together with a very strong mind day in and day out, sometimes you won't be able to maximize the talent and that skills. It's how you put it all together. And I think that's certainly what I've learned as well. You have a look at a player like David Ferrer, who doesn't have nearly the same skill set as those two guys. Yet, what an unbelievable career he's had. He's been in a major final. Of course, he hasn't won a major, but, you just never know. And I think, you speak about it a lot. I love listening to your talks and your podcasts about having a growth mindset. And if you just have that mindset of trying to be better today than what you were yesterday, I think that is without a doubt the best way to go. People like to complicate things, but I think keep it simple, stupid, hey?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, for somebody that's really, for me, maximized his potential and been that type of today Ferrer, because obviously David Ferrer retired, I think, 2 years ago now, is Alex de Minaur. I mean, the guy is, 5'10", 5'9", maybe, which today is regarded as small in tennis. But the mentality of the guy, the work ethic of him, the results he's having, I think he's near top. You'll probably know this, Robbie, better than I, but he's definitely top 30, I think, at the moment.
Well, I think 23 or 24 at the moment.
And it's funny. I was speaking to a kid the other day who played him in juniors in U.S. Open and beat him. And this kid no longer plays tennis, and just said there was no chance I would have saw Alex go even top 200. So like you said, you never know. But hey, listen, we could talk all afternoon about tennis and so on and so forth. But let's get on to the purpose of this podcast. It's people with a passion for what they do. And Robbie, you're definitely one of those. Every time I switch on the TV, I'm excited to hear you because you're excited about being there as well. But first question is, please explain to our listeners in the simplest way what it is you exactly do.
So I commentate on tennis events all around the world. For the first 12 years of my commentary career, I did what was the world feed at all the Masters 1000 events and some of the 500 events. So the world feed is the feed that gets sold to every single broadcaster around the world. And then in some countries, like in America, it would be Tennis Channel, ESPN, they put their own commentators on. But pretty much all the other sports networks around the world take what is the host feed. And that comes with pictures and that comes with commentary. And I am that commentary that people would listen to at all the Masters 1000s and some of the 500s. And now more recently, I work for Amazon Prime in the UK, and Amazon has the UK television rights for those events. So I no longer get heard for those particular events on a worldwide scale. I'm contracted to a channel that operates only within the UK. Now, for some of the events like the US Open and the Australian Open, as well as Labour Cup, as well as the Auckland event the week before Australia, I work for those broadcasters in a world feed capacity. So again, that's a feed that goes to everybody else out there outside of the country in which it is broadcast.
Okay. Now, would you be at the actual events themselves?
Yeah. So when you are a host broadcaster, you're always at the events, 99 times out of 100. In fact, even in these pandemic times, for the most part, we are on site. With Amazon, though, Amazon basically becomes a client of ATP Media, which puts out the world feed. And so we are doing it remotely from the UK at the moment because travel is so difficult for us to go on site. But even with Amazon, we'd be on site for pretty much every single event that we do. So, a lot of people ask me, what is it like commentating remotely versus being on site? I say, for us, it takes away about 40 to 50% of the feel when you're doing it remotely versus when you're on site. And when you're on site, you're always meeting people and you're getting tidbits from the coaches, or I bump into you and I'm like, okay, what have you been doing with Lloyd Harris physically? And you can pick up so many of these nuggets and then get those across to the broadcasters that we're chatting with and interacting with. But of course, when you're doing it remotely, you don't have that luxury.
So that's definitely been one of the challenges, because obviously, we'll have a few chats at tournaments, and I see you networking, and you know pretty much everybody, Robbie, on the tour by now. You've been obviously there as a player and now as in TV commentary. I mean, you must be on the tour now for 30 years, pretty much 80% of your life. But I'm sure you missed that aspect as well. So tell me, what was it that made you want to get into commentary? Because obviously you finished a tennis career, successful tennis career, especially in doubles. You reached the semis in US Open, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you want to transition into commentary?
Well, it was it wasn't something I was looking to get into. It was just a chance meeting with Jason Goodall, who does a lot of commentating as well. And Jason happened to live in the same street as me in the UK, just not far from where Wimbledon is. And one day I was walking to Southfield's tube station, and he was coming back, and we bumped into each other at the corner of the street. And we hadn't seen each other in a long time. We didn't know we lived so close to one another. And he said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm coaching Wesley Moody and Mahesh Bhupathi. So that's what I did my first year after I retired. I traveled with them. And I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm doing the world feed for ATP Media, these Masters 1000 events. I'm doing the commentary for them." I said, oh, that's very nice. Who are you doing it with? He said, I'm doing it with John Barrett. But interesting you ask, because John is actually retiring at the end of the year. He's turning 80. Of course, John Barrett, the voice of Wimbledon for so many years. And they're actually looking for a new commentator. Is that something that you would be interested in doing? And I said, well, you know what, I'm enjoying the coaching gig, so not really. He says, well, if you're ever at any of these Masters events and you've got some time off, come into the booth. We're always looking for an extra commentator to ease the workload, and, we can just talk tennis. So obviously I'm in Indian Wells in Miami in a coaching capacity, and I finish early with the boys, and I text them, and I said, hey, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm done for the day. If you need me, I'll come and talk tennis with you. So he said, okay, I'll come up in the next 45 minutes, let us finish the set, and you can come join. So basically, that's how I got into it. So I do a couple of matches in Indian Wells, not even matches, Ellie, I do a couple of sets. Then I do the same in Miami. We go to the clay court season, and I do a few sets in Rome, blah, blah, blah. At Wimbledon, Wesley decides he doesn't want to work with me anymore. So we finish after 6 months. And straight away, I see how finicky the coaching world can be.
Yep.
So one day you're hot, the next day you're not.
Yep.
Very little job security. And then my mind starts to think back to what Jason said to me in March. So I go to Cincinnati, still in a coaching capacity, but I'm only with Mahesh now. And then they asked me to do another couple of sets of tennis. And after I do those sets of tennis, the guy who's head of production says, can we meet? So I said, sure. He goes, Robbie, listen, over the last couple of months, we love your work. We love your enthusiasm for the game. And, you're a natural at commentating. Is it something you'd be interested in doing next year? Because we're looking for a new commentator. So I said, sign me up, man. I like the sound of this thing. And, they guaranteed me X number of tournaments, negotiated the rate literally right there across the desk. And so by pure luck and a chance meeting with Jason, I fell into TV commentary, and what a blessing it's been.
Wow, what a story. I never knew that. But, there's one thing that really comes across about you, Robbie. If someone was to ask me to explain what Robbie's like, and the first word that comes to me is authentic. Because you're the same person on TV as you are in person. You are enthusiastic, you're excited. I've never seen you in a bad mood. So really authenticity is one of the first words that come across to me. Even just speaking before we went onto this call as well, you're still the same guy. It's not like you're switching on something, but that authenticity. So let me ask you this: what makes you so passionate about what you do? Because that's what really comes across, and that's why I'm excited when I switch on the TV and I hear it's Robbie Koenig. This is going to be a good, even if it's a bad match, I'm still excited to hear that the commentator is still into it.
No, thanks, Ellie. I appreciate that feedback. My dad always taught me to have passion for life. And I think probably that's the most important takeaway I ever had from my dad. He was, I think in many ways, very similar to me. He just loved life, and he always looked at the glass half full. And I've had so many blessings in my life. I've been so blessed to do what I love doing, and that was playing tennis. Of course, I wish I was a top 50 singles player. I wish I could have had a similar sort of career in singles to what I had in doubles. But, I get as much joy talking about the sport as what I did playing it. And I just thought, I've been involved in this golden generation of the sport where we've had the 3 greatest players perhaps ever to play the game, and I've been front and center watching their careers unfold. I mean, if you can't get excited about that and you love tennis, I think there's something wrong with you. And again, I've worked some insane hours at times. It hasn't always been hunky-dory, but just when you want to have a bitch and a moan, just take a little bit of cognizance of what's going on, and then you wake up the next day and you think, okay, I'm calling a Federer or Djokovic or Nadal or Murray match, or Kevin Anderson, the SA boy who's done so well, and it's like, wow, man, this is so freaking cool. Let's go and do it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What's it like commentating like a 5-6 hour match? I know what it's like as sitting in the box or sitting in a coach. Your butt gets pretty sore sitting there for a while, and as being a coach yourself in the past. You don't want to jinx things by running to the toilet quickly. You know, all these little things come into your mind. But what about you? I mean, surely, that's lunch and dinner in a setting there if you're sitting for 6 hours, eh?
Yeah, I've done a couple of long ones at Kev's match against John Isner at Wimbledon. 6 hours would probably be a maximum. Sometimes it was back-to-back matches. But if it's a good match, the time goes like this. You don't even know. You're just so into the match. If the quality's good and there's drama and there's good atmosphere at one of the majors, then there's nothing better. But you can get matches that are boring and long. But also sometimes, I'll just get out of my chair, right? And then I'll just be standing up and I'll be gesticulating. I'll be doing a couple of squats just to keep the energy going or whatever, and joking with my co-commentators. And, we do all these things to keep the energy level and the enthusiasm up. And sometimes I'll take it upon myself if I'm working with a co-commentator to try and almost infuse them with some energy and try and give them some energy from me, because at the end of the day, we're a team. It doesn't matter how good I am. If the guy next to me, is struggling for energy, then it kind of reflects in the broadcast.
Yeah.
You're only as good as the guy you commentate with, and as good as I'm with, as good as I am.
No. Now, and for our listeners out there, because obviously this is not on visual, Robbie did get out of his chair there. He did do some squats. so there you go. He's not even live on television right now. I'm going to jump a few questions forward and then come back. But what is the best match you've commentated, and why? I'm sure there's been quite a few, but is there any that stick out?
Yes, there's two that really stick out. 2017 Australian Open final, Federer and Nadal. Roger has chances to win it. He's come back from knee surgeries, and he goes down a break in the fifth, 3-1 to Rafa in Australia, epic match. And I remember commentating with Josh Eagle and Mark Petchy at the time. And I remember putting off the headset after he got broken, and I just said to them, Rafa's got him again. He's got him again. Every time there's a big match and it goes deep, he's got Roger's number. It doesn't matter how much of a fan you are of Rog. Rafa's got his number. And then for him to come back and win the next 5 games in a row, I would have bet every cent that I had that wouldn't happen. And the manner in which he did it wasn't like Nadal capitulated. It was exactly the opposite. Federer raised his game to another level. And there was that insane rally at 4-3 juice, the 26-shot rally where Roger was half volleying everything, and it was, he eventually went on to hold serve at 5-3 there. And I just remember it was insane. And then obviously the manner in which he won was a Hawkeye challenge. And perhaps the coolest thing after that was when it was all said and done, and we were in the undercarriage, if you want to call that, of Centre Court there in Australia. You obviously know it well. And we were just standing to the side because we heard that Roger was coming through and all the security around him was going to do all his press, all the post with the big major channels. You have to go and do 5 minutes with each of them. And as he was walking down the corridor, we were kind of pushed back in the corridor on the side entrance while he came through. And I was standing with Josh Eagle there, who did the commentary with me. And as he comes around the corner, he's got like 10 people, security, Tony Godsick's there with him and his agent. And he's walking and he turns to the right and sees Josh and I standing in this little gangway. He's got the trophy in his hands. He stops. He walks over to us. He gives Josh a high five. And whilst he's giving me a high five, he points to the trophy and he goes, "What do you think, China?" Little moments like that. It's like, you say, it's very cool, man. I'd written you off. I thought you were done and dusted. I thought you're going to lose it.
And for our listeners there hearing the word China, that's some South African slang we used back in the day. For South Africans, that's more like buddy, friend, or whatever. And nobody. What's funny, Robbie? Nobody knows the history or the significance of the word China for us. It's just like, it's just like a buddy. It's just like a pal.
Yeah, in Australia they say mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say China. But yeah, so and Roger obviously, he knows South Africans and he knows everybody's nicknames in the locker, and of course my nickname was China. So yeah, just those little moments like that. He was well aware that we would have been commentating on the match and everything that unfolded, and it's a cool little piece of history. And the other one that I want to touch on was watching Andy Murray win at Wimbledon for the first time.
Yeah.
When he beat Jocko on that brutally hot day, and I was doing radio for that for Wimbledon. And for me, what made that match so significant was because I played Andy in doubles at Nottingham when he couldn't have been more than 16 or 17 years of age, and I couldn't believe how good he was. I was playing with Chris Haggard, who had a nasty lefty serve, and on these grass courts, if I crossed, he went down my line. If I stayed home, he would just glue the return to Chris's shoelaces. And after 5 games, we thought, hang on, we can't be playing on a 16-year-old. We need to play on his partner. And in fact, we plugged his partner, who ended up, folding, and we ended up winning the match. And I remember walking up to his mom at that time after the match. I'd never met her before, and I said, hey, if your boy continues to practice hard, and I've never seen skills like that. So for me to watch Andy when he was there and then follow his career and see him on tour, and then for him to eventually win Wimbledon after, the 4 times losing in the major finals, and then get his hands on the Wimbledon trophy, that was one of the coolest things. And I'll tell you something funny about that as well, commentating on that, is when we commentate radio, we normally do 1 set on, 1 set off. We share the workload. And for the finals, I had sets 1, 3, and 5, and my co-commentators had sets 2 and 4. And I'd imagined the night before his quarterfinals, I'd somehow thought, okay, I must be prepared in case I get asked to do the finals. And something came into my head as to what I would say if Andy won, and I wanted to make it profound. And I thought about it, and I wrote it down in case he won. And of course, it just happened that he won in straight sets. So I did sets 1 and 3. And I remember now what I'd scripted was that something to the effect that, Andy Murray is a Wimbledon champion. There will be tears of joy in his hometown of Dunblane, of course, in reference to what happened there when he was a kid, right?
Yep.
And I've always thought that's one of the reasons Andy points to the scar for those children who lost their lives in the Dunblane massacre. And if any of your listeners don't know about that, Andy was at that school when it happened. Yep. He was 1 classroom away from going into the gym when that happened. And I said there will be tears in his hometown of Dunblane today, but those tears will be tears of joy because one of their own has won the greatest title this sport has to offer. And in doing so, he's beaten the best player on the planet. And I felt like in that evening when I'd written it down, that encapsulated everything that Andy was about, his Dunblane story, from the sadness of the killing that happened there to the joy of him now winning the biggest prize that we have in our sport. And I just thought I got that one right. You don't often get that feeling as a commentator. And it's probably one of my proudest moments in commentary. So, yeah, that would be up there.
Yeah, great memories. Robbie, there's a quote that goes, find your passion and you'll never have to work another day in your life. Would you go along with that?
Oh, man, if anything holds true, it is so true. And, I said it, I touched on it a little earlier to you. I'm so blessed to love the job that I have. And the fact that I get paid for it is just the best thing. Well, don't tell the guys. I think we might have to edit this part out. But don't tell my bosses. Because I probably work for free. That's how much I enjoy it. But, no, jokes aside, at the end of the day, sometimes you get paid a lot of money and you don't enjoy what you do at all. I've been very blessed. And I'm sure you're in a similar sort of situation.
Yep. I've also been asked, if I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it be? And I'm like, well, I'm doing it. There's nothing else I'd want to do. When people ask me, how do you define success? And it's going to be a question I'm going to ask you at the end, it's waking up and having the ability to choose what you want to do with who you want to do it with. And that's something I've been able to, the hard work and the graft is get myself into a position where I'm able to wake up and decide this is what I'm going to do today. This is who I'm going to speak to today. And for me, that's my personal success. Obviously, it's different for everybody else. But no, for
I
sure.
love that.
Yeah. What about, there's probably going to be a lot of listeners, listening to this and saying, well, I haven't found my passion. And, that's something common that you hear. What would your advice be for people who haven't necessarily found their passion? They maybe go to a job and they can't wait for Friday and they hate Mondays. So
yes.
How would someone be able to find their passion? What's your best tips?
So my tip for that is that whatever it is you have your passion for, I think it's very difficult if somebody doesn't know what their passion is at all. It has to be something you enjoy, whether it's fly fishing or playing golf. If there's an industry that you want to get into, I think you have to make some time to explore whatever it is in that passion that you would like to try and do. So if it's be a fly fishing guide, you have your 9-to-5 job, but then you have to explore in some other hours of the day about how do you become a fly fishing guide? What does it take to be a fly fishing guide? Where are the rivers you need to go? And you have to spend additional time and put in hard graft on top of the graft that you're doing that you don't enjoy to try and find out how I could make a career in doing something I love. So that's the way I would do it. So basically you're holding down 2 jobs. No one said it's going to be easy, Ellie. And that's the way I would go about it. So if I wanted to be a builder now, I'd do my commentary, okay, and my week's off. I need to go and study about being a QS, go and lay bricks, offer my services to go and lay bricks or plaster walls or whatever it might be. And you can't do it for a short period of time. These things don't just happen. And I'm a big believer, you have to put in the work. When you put in the work and the opportunity comes past your door, when you've been putting in the practice, I think that's when you're in the correct position to grab that opportunity. So that's how I look on those kind of things.
Some good advice here. Career-wise, what would you say are 3 things, traits, or qualities that are essential to be a success?
I think you don't have to love what you're going to do, but I do think it helps. I think it, because I've met people who don't necessarily love tennis, but they're good at it. I think a work ethic that is you have to go above and beyond is absolutely imperative. You've got to explore every avenue of your career that you possibly can. That's a given. That's how you gain experience in that job and in a sport or in a passion like what I was doing. Tennis, I was quite a hard worker. But I've done some insane hours for the first 10 years of my commentating career and, not getting paid as well as I am now. But the amount I learned in those 10 years, we were looking at those hours. I reckon, in fact, it was probably about 3 times as many hours as the average commentator was doing, if I spoke to the guys at Tennis Channel or ESPN or Sky Sports. So, in fact, in 10 years, I probably did 30 years of work. That's how I looked at it, somebody who's been with one of those other networks. And I think the ability not to be scared of making mistakes, I think that's so important to grow as an individual.
That's good.
And the other one is listen to other people. Be a listener. It might be 90% of what they say you might have heard, or it might not make sense to you, but there just might be a nugget that you get here or there that resonates with you. And sometimes the power of a single thought can be extreme. And if anybody here has watched Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, will know the power of a thought, because Michael would sometimes create these thoughts in his mind just to fire him up to beat a certain team. And I think the power of a thought is something, and something I wish I'd done a bit more of was read more. wish I'd read more when I was younger. I got into it probably a little later. But man, you read books by people who have studied a particular subject, and in this case, let's say it's psychology or sports psychology of the mind. Some of these people who write these books, they've studied for 10, 20, 30 years. You're getting all their knowledge in 200 pages.
For less than $25.
Where do we sign up for those?
Yeah.
So I think I hope those things that I touched on there, ask a lot of questions, read a lot, listen a lot, insatiable appetite for hard work. And there's one other one that I've missed out, but I'm sure they would have heard it a little earlier on.
Those were good ones. Up until now, what's been the greatest lesson or failure, and what has it taught you?
When I got injured early on in my career, I had a nice rise to top 300 in singles. I got to a 280 within about 18 months within my first proper year on tour, 1992. Start of 93, I got injured. I remember going into the summer and I carried the injury through for about 6 months into the US summer, 93, and eventually I had to have surgery. And it was during that time that I started reading. And I thought my career was done. I started studying law. I started doing other things. And it was only when I read a couple of books. I remember reading, the first one I read was Mind Power by John Keogh. He came to speak in South Africa, and I went to talk thanks to my father-in-law. And off the back of that, I thought it was so profound. A lot of stuff in that book resonated with me. And off the back of that, I read Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, which for me is still, it's almost like one of those reference books that you go back to a couple of times every year and just pick up ideas from it. And it really changed the way I thought about life, the way I thought about my career, and having that adversity from when I thought I'd never be playing the game to suddenly coming back after 9 months, 2 surgeries. I was in such a good place, and that really started my appetite for reading and just learning from other people. So yeah, that would have been it, no doubt.
What book are you reading at the moment, Robbie?
I'm reading Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Okay.
Which is fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic. A great line or lesson that I've learned from that book, probably the most profound one that I've come across now. And it says, plenty have enthusiasm, few have endurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's so
everything
true.
Starts out rosy, a couple of years or whatever, you're into it, and then everything fades away. But those who end up being successful, they know how to have stickability.
Yeah, I think it's also I think I posted it the other day on my Instagram. It's about commitment. Commitment is doing what you said you would do long after the feeling has left you.
Yes, lovely. Lovely. Yeah, lovely.
Let's see. What's been the best piece of advice you've received, Robbie? Probably not being scared to fail and make mistakes. My brother implanted that in me from a young age. He's quite a bit older than me, 14 years older than me. He was a very good squash player, very good tennis player, same era as Kevin Curran. But my mom said no. My mom and dad said no, you got to go and get a proper job. He studied law, very successful in that field, but he still wishes he had played tennis. And he was a very good squash player too. And I remember when I started to become a decent player and started ascending up the rankings, he said, don't be scared of making mistakes. It's the best way to learn. It's the hardest way to learn. But you'll grow so much as an individual, both mentally as well as physically in your game. So, yeah, I think we live in a day and age now where there's so much perfection in the Instagram world and Facebook. Everybody lives the perfect life. Yep.
But, don't be scared of challenging people and making mistakes.
Yeah. Don't just learn from your own failures, learn from others around you, right?
Too true.
Excellent. And this next question is pretty much linked to the previous one, and you'll know what I'm going about here. Is if you could go back to the very beginning of your career, let's say your commentary, what would you do differently?
You know what? I'm gonna I'm going to hijack you there and say, let's go back to the beginning of my tennis career initially, because I would have had somebody like you on board, physical trainer. I had no idea what physical training was about. You'd read an article in a magazine. Don't forget there was no YouTube, nothing like that. The internet didn't exist back then, pretty much. And someone would bring a tennis magazine back from Europe, and you heard about this orange-haired kid from Florida called Jim Courier, who was born in 1971, and he did 10 400s. Okay, if he's number one junior in the world, he's doing 10 400s for a fitness center. That's what we had to do. I had no idea how to build a body, and my problem was overtraining. Never knew how to build a robust body, and I wish I'd had much better help in that department. I think I lost a lot of time with injury and not being as the best possible athlete that I could become. Listen, I'm vertically challenged the best at times, so you can't teach height, but I think I could have maximized another area. So that's the one thing I wish I could have changed. As far as commentating goes, I wouldn't change anything, because working with Jason was the best thing that ever happened to me, because he's got very high standards. We butted heads a couple of times in the booth when he was holding me to a higher standard. And I didn't like it sometimes when I was tired, but I am forever grateful to him for that, because I think in those early days when I could have slackened off, he made me a better person. So commentary-wise, there's not a whole lot I would change.
Yeah, definitely another guy I enjoy listening to is Jason Goodall. Well, good. I obviously want to be respectful of your time. This has been awesome. Listen, I could chat to you for another 2-3 hours, Robbie, about the world of tennis and everything else. But let me ask you this. How do you define success for your career, number one, and for life?
The older I got, I'm getting closer to the big 5-0 now, Ali. And
doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it, Robbie. You got to give me your secrets.
I tell you, it's all the Botox here. And No,
you're looking good, eh? I'm
no,
really
got to
looking
stay in
good.
showroom condition, buddy. You taught me that. I think for me, success is just I get so much enjoyment about feedback from tennis fans when they bump into me. That's where I get so much enjoyment. Whether I'm on the biggest networks in the world or not on the biggest networks, that makes no difference to me. I would commentate exactly the same way, irrespective of who I worked for. Success, also feedback from players, peers, and I think I've been blessed with some players. Stefanos Tsitsipas, when I was interviewing him, the mics went off at the Australian Open, and I don't know him particularly well. I've seen him around, and he just said, "Robbie, I absolutely love your commentary." And for me, that is success for me. Certainly in my workplace, and I get a real enjoyment about making other people happy. So in life,
It's almost like a purpose for you, hey Robbie. You've really found your purpose by the sounds of it.
No question about it. When people say, "Oh, whenever I'm around you, you're so positive and energetic," and I get a real kick out of that. It's like, yes, I've made a difference in that person's life. I cannot be around people who are negative anymore. I just choose not to be. People who are complainers and moaners all the time, I just don't want to be in their company. Yeah. And I know how much it drains me. And on the flip side, I know how much it energizes me when I'm with positive people who, have a good philosophy on life. Of course, things aren't rosy all the time. I understand that. And sometimes I'll have a bitch and a moan, but I really try and keep those to an absolute minimum and try and make other people's lives better by bringing joy to them. I think that's what it's all about for me, whether it's my kids or people who enjoy my commentary. Of course, you get people who think you suck as well. So I'll go out and seek them and say, "Okay, why do I suck? Let's talk about this. How do you want me to get better?" And then it's amazing when you challenge them a bit and they get to know who you are. Then it's like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I see a completely different side to you and what you mean by some of the things you say. So
Well, obviously, you obviously follow you on Twitter, Robbie, and obviously Twitter has all the experts in the world giving comments there. But sometimes as well, I'll also get maybe someone that's being a little bit rude or nasty, and
Yeah.
99% of the time I don't respond. It's just a waste of time, because you know what they say: if you're going to wrestle with a pig, you're going to get dirtier. So. But kindness always wins. I'll just sometimes send a message back saying, "Thanks so much for your feedback. I hope to do better." And then they'll inbox you, and they'll be, "Hey, sorry, man. it maybe came across a little bit wrong, but they've been really nasty or rude." And kindness wins.
It always does it. It always does it. Too true. I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Where are we? Is there any favorite quote that you like or go by?
What is it? Life is 10% what happens to you. 90%. Got it written down somewhere. I do have it. Let me pull it up for you so I get it straight.
Yeah, I think it's. Is it life is 90% what happens to you, 10% or how you respond to it? Maybe I'm.
Yes. Yeah, but let's get it right. I mean, we don't want to mess it up for the listeners, right? If you're going to do it, we've got to do it properly. Here we go.
Thank goodness for Google.
No. I have a list of.
Oh, you got a list.
Quotes, yeah. Where it is. Gee whiz, we're struggling today.
Robbie, seeing that you're in London there, I see you've just put a jacket on there. It must be getting a bit chilly.
It's funny how the weather can change here, man. It's amazing. It's been some cold days, and then this morning I actually had to hit outdoors, and it was fantastic. So once the sun starts to go down 5 o'clock here, it does get a little chillier. But just to get back to one of my favorite quotes, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
Here we go. Yeah, we were close.
Yeah, better get it right though. I've also loved some of Mark Twain's quotes. He's one of my favorite guys of all time. I'm sure the American listeners will know him all too well, but he is just one of the best. And every now and then I'll slip some of his quotes into some of my commentary. And just to give you a tennis reference, I came across this just by pure accident. And of course, you've been to the tournament in Cincinnati, the Western and Southern, and you know what Cincinnati's like versus a lot of the other places we go to.
Yep.
And Mark Twain's coach, and if anybody from Cincinnati is listening to this, they'll probably appreciate it. He said, "If the world comes to an end, I want to be in Cincinnati. Everything comes here 10 years later."
Mark Twain said that?
Twain said that, and that is sincere, right?
Yeah.
Just not quite up to everything else in the States.
Good old Mason, Cincinnati.
Mason, Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's actually one of my favorite places for some reason. I don't know why. You know where else I used to enjoy, unfortunately they took the tournament away, was Memphis. I really enjoyed Memphis as well.
Yeah, I've always been a massive fan of Cincinnati. The first couple of years when we played there, you could get billeted accommodation. And, it was expensive when you're on the road, so there were a couple of people that offered to house players that were playing qualifying. And I met some of, one of my greatest American families there. I'm still in contact with them 28 years later and still very, very good friends. And that was ever since the first time I stayed there. And when you get to meet local people, you get to know the place so much better, Ali. And good restaurants and golf courses and so much other stuff that players playing the tournament and staying in the tournament hotel, they wouldn't get to see.
Yeah.
And that's why, Cincy always resonates with me.
I know you're a big golf fan, but obviously when was I there last? I think I was there just in 2019. Obviously 2020, I wasn't there. It did take place, but it took place in New York.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but they had a golf course there next to the site. And
correct.
Did they take that away, or did they put more parking there? Something.
Yeah, they put some parking there during the events. In the early days, it used to be a Jack Nicklaus course, and actually it got into a little bit of disrepair, so he took his name off of it. But it was a fantastic course. We used to have like a pro-am golf event for the tournament, like only players and prizes if you did well there. And you finish a practice session and you just drive across the parking lot and off you go, man. You can sneak in 9 holes or 18 holes of golf. And it's always been a very popular tournament, certainly with the older generation of guys.
Yeah, I remember actually playing around. I don't know if it was with our good friend Neville Godwin or if it was with Xavier. But remember, it was exactly what you're saying there. After a practice, went straight over to the golf course, and of course, you're able to get clubs there via the tournament and so on. So that was good fun. Robbie, I don't want to take too much of your time, but we've got 10 quick fire questions to finish up. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's try it. Let's do it.
It's either one word or a sentence. Favorite food?
Risotto.
I'm disappointed. I thought it would be Nando's.
Oh man, I can't believe you know who loves Nando's is Chris Martin. He gave Nando's a shout out the other day when in an interview with Howard Stern. So that just tells you how big Nando's has got. But if Chris Martin thinks that's where you should be taking someone on a date, Nando's is up there. I'm sorry I let you down.
Yeah, supporting the local. Hey? Chris Martin of Coldplay, of course.
Yeah.
Which leads us to our next question. Favorite artist or band? I know you're a big 80s fan.
I am a big 80s fan. Well, if I had to go back to the 80s, I'd probably go with maybe even before that. I mean, Jagger and the Stones. Does it get any better than that? What a performer that guy was, man.
Yeah.
She was. If I could only choose one, I think Elton John's an absolute genius as well. It'd be tough to split those two guys.
Yeah, just celebrated his 73rd or 4th birthday last week, actually.
Yep.
You've visited so many places all over the world, but if you could choose one city?
For historic city, there is no place on this planet like Rome. For natural beauty, Queenstown, New Zealand is the top seed, but 2 days on horseback.
Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, nothing comes close.
Awesome. Favorite sports memory?
Winning our quarterfinals at the US Open. If you're talking about tennis, that would be it. If it's another sport, sure. South Africa winning the Rugby World Cup. I think that would be right up there when...
95?
No. The latest one. 95 was profound, but I wasn't into my rugby as much then as what I was when we won it recently against the English. That was the manner in which we won it.
2019, was it?
Yeah.
I mean,
remember they beat the All Blacks in the semis, and then everybody was writing us off because the English played so well, and they were going to...
Yeah, totally dominated them. Dominated from the front row and everything, yeah.
Yeah, 2 front rows, right?
That's right. Talk about tactical genius by Rassie Erasmus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was genius. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, changing your whole front three.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like I know you're a Liverpool fan as well, the same as me, Robbie, but that's like taking off Salah, Mane, and Firmino, which is substituting at the moment, and just putting another 3 on. But anyway,
it's good.
Yeah, we're having a rough season anyway, so let's not go into that.
I'll bring the mood down.
Exactly. Favorite sports team?
This might be strange for many, being a South African, and I love the Springboks, but I am enamored by the All Blacks. I am the culture that they have. I've read a lot of books about them, and I've never seen a team across any sport in the world that has a culture like the All Blacks. And of course, the winningest team of all time. They've got something like an 80% winning record, and the way they bring a country together. No team like it.
Yeah, Robbie, we share the same feelings there, and Neville Godwin better not listen to this podcast, because he cannot understand how I have this feeling for the All Blacks as well. And I said, it's for me, it's about culture and so on. And it's not that I don't like the Springboks. Of course I do. I'm proud to have been brought up there. But he just gives me trouble the whole time about that one. So be careful.
Okay.
Favorite athlete, male and female, past or present? Can be one or the other.
Yeah, I'm a massive, I don't know if you know this about me, track and field fan.
Yep.
And it's tough to nail it down to one, but at the time it was Haile Gebrselassie.
Mm-hmm.
I was such a massive fan of his, that smile, the way he ran, the story behind him. So he would be male athlete. Female athlete, hands down Martina Navratilova. Same sport as me. I've got to meet her. They say you should never meet your heroes or heroines, but I've never come across a more humble superstar in my life who just gets it. And what she achieved was mind-boggling. And to be the person that she is, yeah, she's right up there for me, right up there.
Yeah. A cool little story about Haile Gebrselassie, who was obviously, obviously track 10,000 meter world champion and went on to the marathon. I was actually at the airport in Holland at Schiphol, and came across Haile Gebrselassie. Had just ran the Amsterdam Marathon that weekend, and I had as well. And we got chatting, and he asked me, "Can I borrow your phone?" He asked me, and I said, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I was thinking, okay, well, he might call back to Ethiopia or whatever it is, but hey, you know what? This guy's a legend.
Totally, yeah.
And he brought out this little piece of paper. And it was a Dutch number because it was obviously the code +31, and he called it. And obviously I wasn't listening in, but he was chatting to his manager, just saying, "Hey, thanks again for everything. I've just got to the airport, blah blah blah," and that was it. He just wanted to make a call to his manager, say, "Thanks for." That's just the class of the person as well, just that small little thoughts. And like you said, humble, always smiling, just a great ambassador for the sport.
Yeah, and if I could have a 1B alongside him being 1A, it would probably be Eliud Kipchoge. What that guy's done in the marathon in the last 5 or 6 years has been mind-boggling. And yeah, anybody who wants to know anything about marathon running, put your treadmill on 21 kilometers an hour and see how fast you can run for at that speed, how long you can maintain it. He can do it for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, most wouldn't be able to do it for 20 seconds. Most people, even runners.
Yeah.
So there you go. Moving on, best tennis match you've commentated, which you've already answered that one. Person you'd like to have lunch with, that could be dead or alive.
I thought pretty hard about that, and it would probably be Richie McCaw, actually.
The All Blacks captain.
Don't hold it against me, Nev. All Black captain, probably one of the most successful of all time. And I'd love to sit and have lunch with him and talk to him not only about his rugby and his mentality and his thoughts on that, but also about New Zealand, because I love that country so much, and just get a feeling of what it must be like to be the man in New Zealand. And I think there's so many things I could chat with them about. So I think you'd be right up there, top of my list. I think Usain Bolt would be pretty close.
Yep.
But yeah.
Richie McCaw, of course, the All Blacks captain, retired in 2017, I think it was. Record caps of 148, I think, as well for New Zealand as well. So last two questions. Best rule change in the game, we're talking about tennis, in the past few years.
I don't know if we've made enough rule changes, but I mean, the fact that we've already slimmed down the warm-up from 5 minutes to 4 minutes, we've got to cut out the dead time in our sport. I love the fact that the players have to get their own tiles. Now suddenly they're not going to the tile every point. So, props to the organisation getting that right, but I would definitely get rid of lets. That would be my number one rule change. Get rid of lets.
And just like use the college system, for example, that they play the point with the let?
Yes. in junior tennis, it's so open to cheating, Ali, and it's terrible. It's terrible at what goes on with youngsters. So, yeah, it's sad that it's got to that, but it's just keep the game going.
Especially you see it as well. We see some of these college matches here in the United States where it's just blatant cheating. And, I don't just blame the players. That's a culture. If you allow that to happen in your team as a coach, whatever it may be, that's on you.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, there's two guys, and I'm involved with them a little bit, and they've developed an app called Swing Vision. And that is it's already out. And in about 6 months' time, it's going to be able to track a ball as well as it tracks. It's going to be almost a mini version of Hawkeye. Not as accurate, but within about 1.5 centimeters of the line. And I think it's going to be a game changer for junior tennis, league tennis in the US, and college tennis in America.
The
really
question is, will it be affordable?
You're probably looking at about $120 a year for the app.
Wow.
And the feedback is incredible, very accurate. You'll have something called a condensed replay. So what it does, if me and you play a match and it lasts an hour and a half, as soon as the match is finished and you press stop, it'll condense the match, taking out all the dead time, all the time in between points, the sit-downs, and you'll have a 9-minute package or 11-minute package of every point back to back.
Wow.
So watch out for Swing Vision. Let's give those boys a shout out. And they've already got a huge following. Tennis Australia's put $1 million into them. They are massive in the States. Two engineers, software engineers that love tennis. One came from Tesla, working on the self-drive cars, and the other guy was with Apple. So you've got two people that are highly intellectual and have built, without a doubt, the best and most affordable tennis app that I think is going to be a game changer. Can't wait for it to come out. And well, it's out now, but they're still in the testing phase with improving their ball tracking. How cool is that?
Wow, some of the brains coming out of Palo Alto, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And our final question, one rule you would change today in tennis? Or it doesn't need to be a rule, but something you would change in the game today if you could.
No injury timeouts. No injury timeouts. If you get injured, you've got to massage yourself. You've got to tape yourself. It's tough because most of the time, I think when we have medical timeouts, it is just a massage, whether it's on the court or they have to go off the court. It literally ends up being a rub. If it's a tape job, you got to do it within 90 seconds on the change of ends, man. Just, unfortunately, I think you shouldn't be able to get a rub on the change of ends for cramps. You shouldn't be allowed that. If I'm in better shape than you, or it's just tough luck. And if you do fall over and twist your ankle, it looks terrible, I know, but you could argue, well, my movement, I'm a more efficient mover than you. Sometimes bad luck happens. That's sport. Like when net courts happen, it's bad luck. Twist your ankle, it's bad luck. But we can't have rules in place for the 5% of things that happen. We've got to take care of the 90% of the rubbish that's happening where players are taking time. A toilet break, 2-3 minutes maximum. 2 minutes, you've got to be back. These 9-10 minute toilet breaks, completely ridiculous. So, one of those things that I would definitely get rid of.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially the injury timeout. That would be my number one. Watch how quickly players will be able to tape their own legs.
True.
Tape their own ankles.
Yep. True. I mean, actually, just we just had Miami last week, and toilet breaks were taking 8-9 minutes because the distance of the court to the back to the main stadium, it's a trek. It's a long way. So I mean, 8-9 minute. We've seen some toilet breaks of the extent of 8-9 minutes where I mean that completely kills the whole match in terms of you might as well warm up again.
And when you're trying to sell the sport to broadcasters, who do you think is going to sit through a 5-minute no action on court?
Yeah, you're starting to switch to see what's on the other channels.
Well, sure, you're going to lose the viewers. We need to clamp down on that big time.
Totally
But
agree.
injury time on first, I think toilet break can be taken care of easier than perhaps what we think.
Totally agree. Robbie, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been fascinating to listen to you, and obviously, like I said, we could carry on this conversation for a long time. But what's the best way for our listeners to keep in touch with you or follow you?
Yeah, Twitter is probably the easiest. Rob Koenig Tennis, I think it is. And then on Instagram, I post pictures or send messages. Rob Koenig Tennis as well. And I love hearing from you, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever the comments might be. Stay in touch. I love communicating with people. I love being around people. So if you ever see me at any of the events, when we hopefully get back to some sense of normality, please come up and say hi.
Awesome stuff. Robbie, you're an oil painting. Thanks so much.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. Thank you. That was funny.
Cheers, Robbie.
Thank you, Alistair. And keep up your great work your side as well. We love everything that you do. And you're such an inspiration to many of us to be better every day.
So there you have it, guys. Our very first guest in the series of people with a passion for what they do, Robbie Koenig. I'm sure you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Remember, this podcast is available on iTunes, YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, and via my website, alistairmccaw.com. Connect with me on social media. I'm on Twitter at Alistair McCaw, on Facebook, Alistair McCaw page, and on Instagram, Be Champion Minded. So remember, you were made for greatness. Now go do the work. Stay champion minded.